Hollywood has always been seen as a land of glamour, where fame can propel someone to the top overnight. But it is also here that a single scandal, a mistake, or a moment of losing control can cause a career to collapse. In 2026, as the public becomes increasingly critical and social media never forgets, many famous stars are still struggling to cope with the consequences of their past. Some are trying to atone for their mistakes. Others have been quietly sidelined by Hollywood, and there are still some names whose opinions remain divided. Do they deserve another chance? Russell Brand, career frozen by past. Russell Brand was once one of the most prominent figures in the British and American entertainment industry, known for his sharp humor, rebellious personality, and strong media appeal. However, that image was heavily tarnished when a series of serious allegations related to his past behavior were made public. These accusations quickly shocked the public, triggering investigations and a wave of strong criticism from the public and international media. Although Russell Brand repeatedly denied the allegations and claimed he was targeted because of his personal views, the media repercussions were almost immediate. Partners in the U.S. distanced themselves, potential projects were canceled or frozen, and his presence on mainstream entertainment platforms plummeted. And instead of appearing in major shows or film projects, Russell Brand gradually shifted to working on his own platforms, where he directly reached his audience without going through traditional media outlets. By 2025, Russell Brand still had a certain voice and following, but his career in the American market was almost paralyzed. The name once associated with comedy and entertainment is now often mentioned in the context of controversy, investigation, and divided public opinion. Russell Brand became clear evidence of a harsh reality of Hollywood and modern media. There are accusations, regardless of the legal outcome, that are enough to leave a stain that time can hardly erase, especially in an industry that prioritizes public image. Doja Cat, when personality gets out of control. Doja Cat was once considered one of the most creative and versatile pop artists of the new generation, boasting a string of global hits and an unmistakable style. However, alongside her musical success, her public image has become increasingly difficult to control due to shocking statements and behaviors on social media. Doja Cat has repeatedly publicly displayed a defiant attitude towards her fans, from criticizing their appearance and mocking her following to asserting that she doesn't need fans to exist, statements that quickly ignited controversy. Furthermore, Doja Cat frequently uses social media as a personal stage, where the line between artistic personality and offensive behavior becomes blurred. Her provocative live streams, posts, and sarcastic communication style have clearly divided public opinion. Some believe she is breaking the old norms of the entertainment industry, while others see it as a display of disrespect for her audience, the very people who contributed to her success. By 2025, Doja Cat's music continues to achieve impressive success, and her commercial influence remains undiminished. However, her image is no longer associated with likability or approachability, but rather as a symbol of a talented artist who constantly throws herself into the eye of controversy. Doja Cat poses a familiar question in the age of social media. When individuality becomes a brand, where is the line between being different and self-destructive? Amber Heard, leaving Hollywood but never escaping the camera. Amber Heard was once a familiar face in Hollywood, appearing in many major film projects and considered a rising star. However, her image completely changed after a protracted legal dispute with her ex-husband, when her private life was brought to a global scale through closely watched court proceedings. The back-and-forth accusations, conflicting testimonies, and publicly released evidence transformed Amber Heard's private life into a controversial entertainment topic on social media, where public opinion was deeply divided. After the trials, despite the complex legal outcomes, the consequences for Amber Heard's career are undeniable. She gradually disappeared from major Hollywood projects, many film plans were canceled or discontinued, and her image in the public eye became more associated with controversy than acting. Instead of being remembered for her role as an actress, Amber Heard became a symbol of a media war in which neither side truly won. By 2025, Amber Heard chose a more private life, distancing herself from the American entertainment industry and limiting her public appearances. However, every personal move she makes, from her living situation and children to her rare public appearances, quickly becomes a topic of discussion. Her tumultuous past means that every action Amber Heard takes is scrutinized, analyzed, and linked to controversies that never truly end. Amber Heard's story reflects a harsh reality of modern Hollywood. Even when a star leaves the spotlight, they can still be trapped in the image the public has assigned them. For Amber Heard, leaving Hollywood doesn't mean escaping Hollywood. It's simply stepping into a different form of attention, quiet but persistent. Kanye West, musical genius or symbol of self-destruction? Kanye West has long been one of the most controversial figures in entertainment. However, in recent years, his statements and actions have pushed that image far beyond mere creative eccentricity. Kanye consistently makes shocking statements on social media and in interviews, provoking strong reactions from the public and the media. Many of his statements are considered to cross sensitive boundaries, sparking intense criticism from the public and industry organizations alike. The consequences are swift and clear. Numerous major brands that had long-standing relationships with Kanye have chosen to terminate their partnerships. Major events and entertainment platforms have distanced themselves, and his image has gradually come to be seen as a media risk. And this isn't because Kanye has lost his creative ability, but because what he says and does makes partners concerned about the accompanying social impact. From the status of a pop culture icon, Kanye West became the focal point of debates about celebrity responsibility in public spaces. By 2025, Kanye West's music still had influence and continued to be supported by a segment of the audience. However, his position in the entertainment industry had changed dramatically. Instead of being primarily mentioned as a creative genius, Kanye often appeared in the news in controversial reports, where art was overshadowed by statements and behaviors outside of music. Kanye West's story once again presented the public with a familiar but never definitively answered question. Is talent great enough to obscure all boundaries? Or are there lines that, no matter how famous, an artist cannot cross without paying a price? Shia LaBeouf, a divisive talent. Shia LaBeouf was once considered one of the most talented actors of his generation, but his career has been repeatedly interrupted by a series of personal scandals. For years, Shia was involved in controversial public behavior, from altercations and uncontrolled statements to serious accusations related to his personal life. These incidents caused his image in the public eye to become more associated with instability than acting talent. After a period of being ostracized by Hollywood, Shia LaBeouf chose the path of independent filmmaking to return. He appeared in smaller-scale projects where acting was paramount and there was less commercial pressure. Some critics praised his efforts and ability to embody characters, saying Shia was still an actor with rare depth. However, an audience reception was clearly divided. For many, artistic talent alone is not enough to erase the negative impressions of the past. By 2025, Shia LaBeouf exists between two distinct extremes. He is recognized artistically within a narrow circle, but has never truly been forgiven on a broader public level. Shia's story reflects a familiar reality of modern Hollywood. A path back may exist, but it doesn't always lead to the same position. And redemption sometimes only involves being allowed to continue working, not regaining trust. Armie Hammer, an irretrievable fall. Armie Hammer was once one of Hollywood's brightest stars, appearing in many major projects and considered a representative of a refined gentleman from a prestigious background. However, everything collapsed when a series of serious allegations concerning his personal life were made public. Leaked private messages, along with accusations of inappropriate behavior, quickly shocked public opinion and created a wave of fierce reactions worldwide. Although Armie Hammer denied many of the allegations and some aspects of the case did not lead to a final legal conclusion, as the public speculated, the media repercussions went far beyond the scope of the law. Film studios and partners immediately cut off cooperation, ongoing projects were canceled or actors were replaced, and the image of a potential star was wiped clean in a short time. Unlike scandals that may fade away, Armie Hammer's story is intertwined with details that are difficult for the public to accept, severely damaging trust and empathy. By 2025, Armie Hammer had virtually disappeared from Hollywood. He no longer appeared in major film projects, and every time his name was mentioned, it was usually associated with a prime example of total collapse, where not only his career but also his public image was ruined. Armie Hammer's return remains a big question mark, and for many in the industry, the door to Hollywood seems closed to him, not because of a lack of talent, but because of the price of controversies that the public is not yet ready to forget. Alec Baldwin, the legal shadow, remains. Alec Baldwin was once one of Hollywood's most respected and veteran figures, but everything changed after the tragedy on the set of Rust. Although the case has seen new legal developments and is no longer considered a scandal in the conventional sense, Alec Baldwin's name remains inextricably linked to a serious incident that the public cannot easily ignore. It's not just a legal story, but a moral and emotional shock to the entire film industry. By 2025, every new project featuring Alec Baldwin faced a sensitive public reaction. Many viewers found it difficult to separate his on-screen roles from the memories of the real-life tragedy, causing his appearances to be scrutinized more intensely than before. Baldwin wasn't boycotted in a loud public way, but he no longer received the same uninhibited reception as during his heyday. Alec Baldwin's story illustrates a particular form of image crisis in modern Hollywood, not due to intentional behavior or shocking statements, but rather the lingering media legacy of a real tragedy. When the lines between accident, responsibility, and public memory are blurred, there are shadows that, even as time passes, are very difficult to completely erase. Kevin Spacey, trying to return, but Hollywood remains silent. Kevin Spacey was once one of Hollywood's most powerful and respected actors, until a series of past sexual harassment allegations brought his career to a complete standstill. Although subsequent criminal and civil lawsuits resulted in favorable legal outcomes for Spacey, showing he was not convicted, this did not mean his image was restored in the eyes of the entertainment industry. In recent years, Kevin Spacey has repeatedly expressed his desire to make a comeback, appearing before the media and participating in several small-scale independent projects. However, by 2025, major studios have offered almost no public response or significant collaboration. Hollywood has chosen silence, not only because of media risks, but also because of concerns about the reaction from audiences, investors, and partners. Kevin Spacey's story has become a prime example of the paradox of the post-scandal era. Legal exoneration does not automatically equate to social acceptance. When trust has crumbled, regaining a former position in Hollywood sometimes depends not on a court ruling, but on the collective memory of the public, something more difficult to shake than any judgment. Jonathan Majors, from Marvel's future to Hollywood's fastest-falling icon. Jonathan Majors was once considered one of the most promising stars of the new generation in Hollywood. He not only possessed a powerful appearance and an overwhelming presence on screen, but was also highly regarded for his ability to portray inner emotions. In a short time, Majors appeared in a series of major projects, from critically acclaimed independent films to box office blockbusters, and especially as the central villain of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. American media once called him the face expected to shape Marvel's future for many years to come. Marvel didn't give Jonathan Majors a temporary role, but placed him as a pillar of an entire era, with a long-term contract and a schedule spanning many years. At that time, his career seemed assured. But while at the peak of his career, a personal scandal unexpectedly erupted and changed everything. The serious allegations quickly propelled Jonathan Majors into the center of global controversy, with media and social networks relentlessly dissecting every development, while his image began to visibly fracture in the public eye. Although Jonathan Majors denied some of the allegations and affirmed his desire to pursue legal action, Hollywood's reaction was swift and cold. Film studios withdrew one after another, ongoing projects were frozen, and Marvel chose to silently sever ties. There were no loud announcements, just the sudden disappearance of a name once considered irreplaceable from future plans. By 2025, Jonathan Majors was almost completely absent from blockbusters, becoming a name labeled an image risk. What makes Jonathan Majors' story so haunting is not just the scandal, but the dizzying speed of his downfall. From a star Marvel had a decade to bet on, he became a prime example of the fragility of fame in modern Hollywood, where a single mishap can cause everything to vanish almost overnight. Ezra Miller, an unanswered question. Should Hollywood forgive him? Ezra Miller was once one of Hollywood's favored young talents. He appeared in major projects, especially as the Flash in DC, and was expected to become a cornerstone of an entire cinematic universe. However, that image began to crumble when Ezra became involved in a series of serious and controversial incidents in real life. For years, Ezra Miller was mentioned in the American media for his behavior deemed out of control in public, from altercations and threats to situations requiring police intervention. It wasn't an isolated incident, but a series of repeated behaviors occurring at different times and locations. This caused Ezra's image to no longer be seen as a personal incident, but gradually as a systemic behavioral problem. These several incidents led to Ezra Miller's arrest or court appearances, generating intense criticism on social media. The media not only reported on each individual incident, but also questioned his mental state, personal responsibility, and the safety of continuing to work with him. Although Ezra's team issued a public apology and acknowledged the need for treatment, the situation went far beyond a simple explanation. The most obvious consequences came from the entertainment industry. Warner Brothers and DC found themselves in an awkward position when The Flash, a completed project, became the focus of controversy. The film was released, but promotional activities were severely restricted. Ezra Miller virtually disappeared from the media campaign, and the future of the Flash character quickly came into serious question. Subsequently, when Ezra Miller was no longer announced for any new blockbuster projects, there was no official announcement of a ban, but Hollywood chose the most familiar approach: silence and a detached stance. By 2025, Ezra had not appeared on the big screen, had no clear film plans, and was virtually excluded from the cinematic universes where he had once been central. What makes Ezra Miller's story special is not just his controversial actions, but the ongoing debate behind them. One side argues that artists are fully responsible for their personal actions and that fame cannot be a shield. The other side questions whether a person has the right to heal, to make amends, and to turn back. Therefore, whenever Hollywood mentions a second chance, Ezra Miller's name emerges as a difficult test of the line between tolerance and social responsibility. Will Smith. Is attempt at redemption never enough? Following the shock at the Oscars, Will Smith entered the most difficult period of his decades-long career. Before millions of viewers worldwide, the moment he stepped onto the stage and slapped the host became one of the most shocking images in Oscar history, instantly overshadowing all his previous artistic achievements. In just a few minutes, Will Smith went from a friendly icon and a family star to the target of fierce criticism worldwide. After the incident, Will Smith publicly apologized, admitting his actions were unjustifiable and accepting disciplinary action from the Academy. He withdrew from public activities, paused many projects, and almost disappeared from the spotlight for a long time. As he gradually returned to film, 2025 showed a clear reality. The public had not forgotten that moment. Every time Will Smith appears on the red carpet, the media brings up the Oscar incident as an inseparable milestone in his career. Will Smith's new films, while still attracting attention, are scrutinized much more closely than before. Instead of just discussing his acting or box office revenue, audiences and critics are asking questions about his image, personal responsibility, and how Hollywood handles stars who have been publicly involved in scandals. Will Smith remains a major star, but the aura that once enveloped him is now accompanied by caution and skepticism. Will Smith's story, therefore, is not just about one act of recklessness, but about its lasting consequences. It poses a difficult question for Hollywood and the public. Is a moment of impulsiveness in front of millions enough to define a career built over decades? Or is society ready to allow an icon to redeem himself and move on? Justin Timberlake, an outdated image in a re-examination of his past. Justin Timberlake didn't experience a dramatic downfall like many other celebrities, but his public image has significantly changed as his past has been brought to light. Stories surrounding his relationship with Britney Spears, particularly recent revelations, have led to a completely different perspective on Justin's role during the peak of her career. From the image of a dapper pop prince, his responsibility and years of silence have gradually come under scrutiny. The fact that Justin Timberlake left Britney to face media pressure almost alone, while he continued to build a positive image for his own career, has become a point of strong public backlash. Although Justin later made statements indirectly acknowledging his mistakes, many believe they came too late, as his perfect image no longer convinces the new generation of audiences. By 2025, Justin Timberlake will still be active in music and entertainment, but his fame will no longer be what it once was. He won't be boycotted, nor will he disappear, but he will become a prime example of a subtle image crisis, where the past returns, not to ruin a career, but to remind us that fame, once tarnished, is very difficult to regain its original brilliance. Jared Leto, when the past refuses to sleep. Jared Leto hasn't been involved in any new shocking scandals, but his image in recent years has been constantly overshadowed by behind-the-scenes stories from his past. Many statements, behaviors, and accusations that surfaced over the years have been dug up by the media and social networks, raising questions about how he treated his colleagues and those around him during his work. These stories, while not erupting into isolated incidents, are enough to make Jared Leto's reputation a subject of ongoing debate. Part of this controversial image stems from the extreme work style that Jared Leto has publicly acknowledged, especially during the period when he pursued a deeply immersive acting style. Behind-the-scenes stories about his behavior exceeding boundaries during filming, though recounted from various perspectives, have led the public to view him with more caution. Meanwhile, past accusations, while not always leading to clear legal consequences, have left cracks in the image of the eccentric but genius artist he once cultivated. By 2025, Jared Leto is still appearing in film and music projects, but his image is no longer considered as safe as before. Instead of being mentioned primarily for awards or artistic achievements, he is often associated with old controversies that have never truly ended. Jared Leto thus represents a kind of simmering image crisis in modern Hollywood, not erupting into a major scandal, but persistent, long-lasting, and difficult to completely erase over time. James Franco, when the past blocks, the path to return. James Franco was once one of Hollywood's most familiar faces, appearing frequently in both art house films and commercial blockbusters, and considered a versatile actor with abilities in directing, screenwriting, and art education. However, that image began to crumble when a series of past accusations regarding inappropriate behavior in academic and professional settings were made public, making his name the focus of intense controversy. The accusations allege that James Franco abused his position of power in acting classes and personal projects, sparking a wave of strong criticism from the public and professionals. Although Franco's side partially denied the accusations and later reached legal settlements to close some cases, the consequences for his career unfolded before public opinion could subside. Major studios gradually distanced themselves, many projects were canceled, or his name was quietly removed from development plans. By 2025, James Franco made attempts at a comeback through smaller, independent projects, but audience reaction showed that the gap between him and his former status remained wide. Instead of being seen as a returning artist, he was often associated with his scandalous past that had yet to be erased. Hollywood seemed to have moved on, while James Franco became a clear example of how deep cracks in one's image can block a return, even if talent and experience remain. Hollywood always talks about redemption and second chances, but the reality is much harsher. Not everyone who stumbles gets the spotlight back, and not every mistake is readily forgiven by the public. Reputation, once shattered, sometimes doesn't collapse immediately, but fades gradually over time. Among the names that have just surfaced, who do you think truly deserves forgiveness? And who is the person whose story behind their glamour surprised you the most? Hollywood isn't just a place that creates legends. It's also where who gets to return and who is left behind forever. If you want to continue exploring the hidden corners and less told dark sides behind the glamorous entertainment world, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories.